Hello, everyone, and welcome into Coach Craig's Sports. This is the MLB DFS Core Pick video for today, Tuesday, June 4th. If you're joining me for the very first time, first of all, welcome in. Second of all, this is how today's video will be structured. We'll be going over a recap of yesterday's picks, seeing how they ultimately ended up turning out. After that, we'll get moved over to RotoWire, talk about the weather report for today, which is just going to be any game that does have a double-digit chance of rain. And then after that, we'll get moved over to FanDuel, talk about my core picks. It's going to be one pitcher, four hitters. It's going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. And then last but not least, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. That cheat sheet is 100% free, and it's up on the Sports Affiliation website, so definitely be sure to check that out as you're building out your lineups for tonight's slate overall. But without further ado, we'll get started with that recap of yesterday's picks. At the pitcher position, we went with Matt Waldron at $7,900. Got to 32 points, so did give him a push. He was not a bad pitcher whatsoever. He, I believe, tied for the sixth pitcher overall in yesterday's slate. 6 1/3 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 4 strikeouts. Obviously, we would have liked the strikeouts to be a little bit higher there. Obviously, we would have liked him to get the win as well, because that would have put him up kind of where we wanted him, closer to that high 30s, 40-point range just in general. If you guys followed my MLB prop of the day, the prop of the day was actually over 4.5 strikeouts. So it did kind of hurt getting the hook there with only 4. And with that being said, I'll be starting to do that prop of the day every day, at least Monday through Friday for MLB. So definitely on the lookout for that on my personal Twitter. Might also be putting up a short here and there as well for most days doing that prop of the day. Then at first base, we went with Christian Walker. He's $3,600. So we're looking for at least double-digit points out of him. He only got 6. He was a miss, so he went 1 for 4. I believe just had a double in that game. And then at second base, we went with Brendan Rodgers, $2,900. Got 27.9 points. He was a hit. Second overall, second baseman on yesterday's slate. And I believe it was only Nolan Gorman who had a bigger day than him at second base. And then at third base, we had Alex Bregman, $3,000. Got to 18.7. He had a home run yesterday, so he was a hit. He was the fourth overall third baseman on yesterday's slate. Some pretty good performances out of third base yesterday, just in general. And then last but not least, we had outfielder Nick Castellanos, $2,700. Got to 3.2 points. So I did give him a push, as he wasn't anybody that hurt our lineups, but wasn't anybody that kind of helped it. At the same time, 0 for 3 yesterday with just 1 run score. So a little bit of hit or miss day yesterday. Obviously, if you had some other good, solid plays, pretty easy day to cash just in general. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to RotoWire and talk about that weather report for today. So there's only one game that does have double-digit chance of rain today. That is down in Chicago for the Chicago Cubs and the White Sox crosstown rivalry down there. That game's being played over at Wrigley. So we'll keep an eye on that as the day moves along. Looks like the wind could be swirling a little bit. Looks like it could be moving right to left. But, sometimes we'll get that swirling effect down in Chicago. And obviously, if things do get worse there throughout the day, we'll leave that listed down in the comments below, as well as any other potential weather changes. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to FanDuel and talk about my core picks over there. So once again, it is going to be based on a combination of past performance versus their respective opponent, as well as some recent history. And we are going to start off at the pitcher position with Max Fried, $9,900, averaging about 32 fantasy points per game on the season. Obviously had a slower start to the year, but he's really turned it on as of late. He's up to 5 wins now, an ERA under 3 at 2.97. Definitely do like his upside. He's going against the Boston Red Sox today. Kind of a middle-of-the-pack lineup just in general, and he's got some pretty decent history versus them in the past, although he did not pitch against them this year in 2024 or last year in 2023, so it's been a little while since he's faced them, but I do definitely like his upside at $9,900. Kind of nice to get one of those pitchers that's under $10,000 today, although if you look at the guys that are over $10,000, there's definitely some good ones out there, so kind of mix and match once again at that pitcher position today. And then with that being said, we'll get moved down to our hitters, and we're going to start off with third baseman Ryan McMahon, $3,500, averaging almost 10.5 fantasy points per game on the season. Goes against the Cincinnati Reds today. It is expected to be Frankie Montas on the mound. In his career versus Frankie Montas, he is 4 for 4, so he's never gotten out against Frankie Montas, so that's some pretty good history there. If you look at what he's done as of late, he has at least 1 hit in 5 out of his last 7 games. No multi-hit games during that time span, only 1 home run and only 2 double-digit performances, but kind of been on that upside versus Frankie Montas tonight. Games at Coors Field, I believe, like the last week or so, the Rockies have not played at Coors Field, so that might explain some of the down numbers for Ryan McMahon. But if you look at what he's done so far in the season, 284 average, 10 home runs, 34 RBIs, once again averaging about 10.5 fantasy points per game at $3,500. Looks like his best season so far to date. And then we're going to move down to shortstop with Dansby Swanson at $2,700. averaging just under 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He is going against Chris Flexen for the Chicago White Sox today. He has 7 for 11 versus Flexen in his career. He has at least one hit in 3 out of his last 4 games. 1 home run during that time span, no multi-hit games, and only 1 double-digit performance. So it doesn't sound too crazy there, but we're betting on some of that recent history. $2,700, pretty good value option on tonight's slate overall. If you look at what he's done so far on the season in totality, 203 average, 5 home runs, 15 RBIs. Obviously did come back from the injury list not too long ago at the same time as well. But betting on some of that past history once again versus Chris Flexen, I think there's some decent upside to be had there with the Chicago Cubs in general and with Dansby Swanson tonight. Then we're going to keep moving down. We got Jurickson Profar in the outfield, $3,300. Oddly enough, you can play him at first base as well. He's had a really good start to the season with that .330 batting average, 8 home runs, 38 RBIs, averaging just under 11 fantasy points per game on the season at $3,300. And tonight he's going against Patrick Sandoval of the Los Angeles Angels. He's 4 for 5 with 2 home runs versus Patrick Sandoval in his career. So that's about as good a history as you're going to get on today's slate overall. He has at least 1 hit in 6 out of his last 7 games. 3 of those games have been multi-hit games, only 1 home run during that time span, and 3 double-digit performances. So I kind of like what he's done so far to start off the year. Probably a decent chance of a multi-hit game tonight versus Patrick Sandoval. So definitely like that upside just in general. And then last but not least, we're going to move down to another Chicago Cub and Seiya Suzuki at $3,200. I went back and forth between him and Cody Bellinger. Obviously, if you're doing a Cub stack today, just play all 3 of these guys together. But ultimately ended up on Seiya Suzuki. He's on a 10-game hitting streak as we speak. And Suzuki's $3,200, averaging just under 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He's 2 for 4 versus Chris Flexen in his career. In the last 10 games, during that 10-game hitting streak, he has 3 multi-hit games, 4 double-digit performances, and 2 home runs. So some pretty decent track record as of late. On the season is .264 batting average, 6 home runs, 23 RBIs. Another guy that did spend some time on the IL list, earlier on this season, but he's playing really well as of late. So definitely don't mind getting to him at $3,200 today, especially if we're building out that Cub stack. Like I said, if you're getting to that Cub stack today, say Suzuki, Cody Bellinger, Dansby Swanson, definitely do make a lot of sense. But we'll get talking about that a little bit more when we get moved over to my cheat sheet. But with that being said, if you go with these 5 players that I do currently have listed here, you'll have $12,400 remaining. $3,100 per player, so maybe looking a little bit more like a balanced build type of day. But if you want to pay up for, like one stud player, pay down a couple other spots, I think it's definitely going to be a slate that we're going to be able to do that just in general. But with that being said, we'll get moved over to my cheat sheet and talk about my top GPP teams to stack for tonight's slate overall. So once again, the cheat sheet is 100% free. It's up on the Sports Affiliation website, so definitely be sure to check that out as you're building out your lineups for tonight's slate overall. And in terms of the top GPP stacks that I do have for today, we're going to start off with the San Diego Padres. They've hit Patrick Sandoval pretty well in the past, mainly led by Jurickson Profar, but you can mix and match a lot of these guys in that lineup overall. Not a long list of history there, but some pretty decent history at that. Then the Chicago Cubs, I think we talked a lot about them just in the core picks, just in general. Dansby Swanson, Cody Bellinger, Seiya Suzuki. Those would be the main 3 that I begin to for the Chicago Cubs versus Chris Flexen tonight. But if you want to mix and match anyone else beyond that, definitely feel free to do so. Then we get over to the Baltimore Orioles, going to go against Bone Francis. Not a long list of history there, but I definitely do like the upside of these Orioles hitters versus him tonight. He's making his first start off the IL. He had a forearm strain, so we'll see how deep he actually pitches in the game. Getting into that Toronto bullpen should be pretty favorable as they've kind of fallen apart in that bullpen as of late. And then last but not least, we have the Cincinnati Reds going against Ty Black of the Colorado Rockies out in Coors Field. Black is actually coming off probably arguably the best start of his career, but I'm not buying too much into that. We've seen him time and time again, whether it's a long reliever, spot starter, just not be that great at the MLB level. I like the Reds going against him tonight. Not much history there versus him in the past, though. So Heimer Candelario will probably be the top guy that I'd be getting to, as he's kind of got some decent history versus him, but kind of mix and match and the rest away from there definitely does make some sense. But with that being said, that's what I do have in terms of the recap, the weather report, the core picks, and the top GPP stacks for today, Tuesday, June 4th. As always, if you have any questions related to MLB DFS, be sure to drop them down in the comments and I'll get back to you as quickly as possible. And then, as always, I'll be listing any other updates that do come out throughout the day, whether that is related to the weather, any potential starting pitcher changes, anybody getting scratched, because we've had a lot of that as of late. And then I will also be posting all these starting lineups as they do get announced throughout the afternoon and early evening. So definitely be on the lookout for that, especially as we do get closer to lock. But with that being said, if you were brand new to my channel, checking it out for the very first time, or have yet to subscribe, please consider doing so. Definitely would appreciate it. helps to build the community that we're trying to build here at Coach Craig Sports, which is one that's truly for you, the viewers, helping you with your DFS. Right now we have MLB DFS in terms of the core picks Monday through Friday. CFL DFS is starting up this week, so I will have a video coming out for CFL DFS probably on Wednesday, and then I also do have my weekly UFL DFS video that will be dropping probably on Friday this week. So if you're into either of those, definitely be sure to check out those videos as well. And then last but not least, if you're interested in sports betting, if you're interested in prop betting, be sure to check out the links and promo codes down in the description below for BetUS, Prize Picks, and Parlay Play. If you are a brand new user on any of those three sites, when you sign up, you make your initial deposit, you will get a first match deposit bonus. For Prize Picks and Parlay Play, it's 100% match up to $100. And then for BetUS, it's 125% match up to $2,500. So some pretty great opportunities to be had out there. And then with that being said, if you have any other additional questions related to that whatsoever, feel free to reach out to me, whether it's down in the comments or on Twitter at Coach Craig Sport, and be more than happy to help you with that journey. But with that being said, that's all that I truly have for today's video. Definitely do appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. Definitely means a lot to me. I hope that each and every one of you have a great rest of your day and some pretty good luck in MLB DFS tonight.